Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, and today's video will be going through 10 new must-buy Nintendo eShop sale games, so let's get into it. Now real quick before we jump into the video, at the time of filming all of these games are currently on sale right now, but they are still great games either way, so if you like what you see and you want to pick them up, I would definitely recommend them. But with that said, let's jump into the video. Alright, so Nintendo's really having a huge sale on a lot of their first party games right now. And so the first game on the list is Metroid Direct. So this game really revitalized the old school 2D platforming Metroid games that really defined the genre of Metroidvanias. And so this is really a great return to form to the series, and it takes place as the 5th game in the series. And so an evil X-Parasite has been discovered by the Galactic Federation, which was thought to be completely wiped out originally by Samus. But it turns out it wasn't, so you go on a mission to eradicate this X-Parasite, and when you land on the planet, you're mysteriously ambushed by a Chozo warrior and lose all your abilities and power-ups. And so you go on a mission to eradicate this remaining X-Parasite and to unravel the mystery of this Chozo warrior, all while trying to gain back your powers and escape the planet. And so as I mentioned, it's a side-scrolling action platformer, or a Metroidvania as it's quite often referred to as. And so what's great about this game, it has incredibly tight controls. The majority of the game is 2D side-scrolling graphics, but it does shift between 3D graphics as well during cutscenes and big events throughout the game. And another key feature of the game is that there's a ton of Emmy robots which were originally sent to the planet to hunt down the X-Parasite, but the Federation lost contact with them, which is one of the main reasons you're sent to the planet as well. And so these robots have basically gone rogue and attack anything they see, including you. So it adds some extra intensity to the game where you're having to run and hide from these Emmy robots, making sure they don't kill you off, as they're usually a one-hit kill, unless you can do some perfect timing and counter their attacks, but that's very unlikely. So you really need to strategize and find out exactly what you need to do to beat these robots to unlock your full powers and escape the planet. It brings back a ton of great weapons and items from the previous Metroid games, but adds some new additions as well. The game isn't too incredibly long. It'll probably take you between 6 to 10 hours to beat it on your first try, but if you're a completionist and go for every secret and challenge, it's probably going to take you a lot longer. If you like action platformers and want to play one of the best in the Metroid series, I definitely recommend Metroid Dread. Alright, the next game on the list is Triangle Strategy. So this is a tactical RPG that follows the plot of 3 warring kingdoms, and you play as a band of warriors coming together to try and restore peace across the kingdom. And so it kind of feels like a Game of Thrones type storyline where there's a lot of political backstabbing and twists and turns of that nature throughout the story. And so there's a unique mechanic within the game where every single choice that you make can shift the overall story throughout the game. And so this can lead you to recruiting different characters, siding with different people, joining different forces, and much more. And so I think that really adds to the replay value of the game. The graphic style really stands out as well. It's similar to the Octopath Traveler series where it's more of an HD 2D meets 3D environment where the sprites look like they're out of the Super Nintendo era, but there's really high quality 3D backgrounds that you'll travel throughout the game. The gameplay gets super addicting if you like that tactical RPG style where there's a bunch of different characters to choose from and lots of ways to level up and power up your characters. I really like the branching story mechanic of the game, and as I mentioned, that can really boost the replay value. And it really reminded me of some of my favorite games from the past, like Final Fantasy Tactics. So if you like tactical turn-based style RPGs, I would definitely recommend checking out Triangle Strategy. Alright, the next game on the list is Dragon Quest XI. If you're not familiar with Dragon Quest, it's a long-running turn-based RPG series. It has great artwork from Akira Toriyama, and they're some of my favorite RPGs of all time. And so what's really cool about the Nintendo Switch version of this game is that you actually have the ability to change between modern-day graphics and then also 16-bit Super Nintendo era graphics. And so you can switch back throughout the game, playing whichever version you prefer, but I definitely think that's a cool feature within the game. There's a huge cast of characters that have a ton of personality, and the game follows a story of you as a hero that has been falsely accused of being an evil entity that will bring about the end of the world, but in reality you're actually the luminary, and it's said that you're destined to save the world. And so you go on a massive quest to try and stop this real ancient evil and clear your name. The gameplay is super addicting. There's a ton of features where you can craft your own weapons, explore the world, many different side quests you can explore. Your characters have different skill trees that you can unlock and progress as you choose, giving a high replay value. There's even additional challenges within the game of a Draconian mode where you can add extra difficulties, adding even further to the replay value of the game. You could definitely sink 100 hours or more into the game, especially if you want to replay it with any of these extra challenges. It's definitely one of my top RPGs and favorites in the Dragon Quest series, and I highly recommend it. Alright, the next game on the list is Skull the Hero Slayer. Now this is a unique action platformer with many roguelike elements, where in this case you kind of play as an anti-hero almost, because Skull is a living skeleton and a soldier in the Demon King's army, and you actually need to fight the forces of good in this game, taking on heroes and trying to save the citizens of the Demon Kingdom. Now in classic roguelike fashion, you'll likely die a lot in this game, but over time you'll be able to progressively power up your character, getting stronger and learning new abilities. On top of that, you have the unique ability to wear different heads, which alter your playstyle of your character. So as you go throughout the game and progress, you'll have different heads you can choose from, unlocking unique abilities and different playstyles for your character, and you can even mix and match two different heads at the same time, which can really help you get past challenging areas. If you like roguelike games and action platformers, this is a fun one that's worth checking out. Alright, the next game on the list is Immortals Phoenix Rising. Now this is an open world action adventure game that feels similar to games like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but in this case it's set more in a Greek mythology type setting versus that Legend of Zelda world. Again, it's more of a combination of an action adventure mixed with action platforming, and so as you explore the world, you'll be able to power up your character, find new items and abilities, and these different abilities will be based on Greek gods like Ares and much more. And so in this game you follow Phoenix, a young warrior who goes on a quest to restore the power of the Olympian gods and to save humanity. And so it's a fun adventure, and if you like action adventure games, enjoyed games like Breath of the Wild, I would definitely recommend checking out Immortals Phoenix Rising. Alright, the next game on the list is Ori and the Blind Forest. Now this is a great action platformer, Metroidvania style game. So great in fact that we named our dog after it. But in this game you play as Ori, a young spirit who's been orphaned after a massive event destroys the forests and world they live in. And so you go on a quest as Ori to restore the forest and increase your powers along the way. It features a lot of exploration, a heartwarming story, and a really great art style, and super addicting gameplay. It's definitely one of the best Metroidvania games that has come out in recent years. There's a huge world to explore, massive skill trees and abilities you can unlock, tight controls, and again, very addicting gameplay. So if you like action platformers, are looking for a new Metroidvania, I would definitely check it out. Alright, so in similar fashion, the next game on the list is Ori and the Will of the Wisps. And so in similar fashion, this is a sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, and is another action platforming Metroidvania game. The game takes place immediately after the events of Ori and the Blind Forest, so I won't go too heavily into the plot as to not do spoilers for that first game. Now while the gameplay is pretty similar to the first Ori, the level up system is a little bit different, where in this game you find various shards throughout the land that you can equip to Ori to power up her various abilities. You'll explore another huge world with amazing visuals, great controls, and extremely fun gameplay. And so if you like the first Ori game and are a fan of Metroidvania style gameplay, I would definitely recommend it. Alright, the next game on the list is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. Now this is a remaster of a game that originally came out on the Nintendo Wii, and is actually the first story in the Legend of Zelda timeline. So you're introduced to a lot of the foundation story elements that have evolved over time, like defeating the evil Ganon and piecing together the Master Sword. And so the storyline is one of my favorite parts of this game, so I definitely want you to experience it for yourself. But think of this as an origin story for The Legend of Zelda and the entire series. So if that sounds good to you, I would definitely recommend the storyline. Now the gameplay itself, I think, is definitely enhanced on a Nintendo Switch. Originally the game came out on the Nintendo Wii, and sometimes the motion controls with that could be hit or miss. And so while you can play this game with motion controls using the Nintendo Switch, I definitely preferred playing it with my Pro Controller. However, it did take some time to get used to the controls. The game is also more linear compared to the more recent Breath of the Wild game in the Zelda series, and follows more of a traditional type path like earlier titles in the Legend of Zelda series. And so you'll go from dungeon to dungeon, traveling across the world, finding unique items that you'll use to further your quest, and a lot of challenging puzzle elements as you explore the different dungeons. Another thing to note though is these dungeons are incredibly huge. As I progressed through the game, there were some of the later dungeons that took more than an hour to get through, so it's definitely not like the pick up and play short burst dungeons like you'd experience in Breath of the Wild. But as you overcome the different challenges and puzzles, it's super rewarding, and it has one of the best stories in the Legend of Zelda series. So if you haven't yet played The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, I would definitely recommend it. Alright, so the next game on the list is another in the Legend of Zelda series, but this time it comes in a bit of a different format, as the next game is Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. And so this game follows the Dynasty Warrior style of gameplay, where it's you versus hundreds if not thousands of different enemies, and you'll need to go through various missions, playing as different characters, in this prequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And so in this game, you're going to play as the different champions that are referenced throughout The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And so not only will you play as Link, but also Zelda, and the several other champions throughout the game. So you'll definitely get to learn more of the backstory that happened leading up to the original Breath of the Wild. On top of that, there's a lot of RPG elements added to this game as well. So as you progress, you'll level up your different characters, making them more powerful, and you'll also find a ton of different weapons throughout the game as well. And each different weapon type has its own unique playstyle and special abilities. It has weapon crafting, tons of side quests and hidden secrets, and a lot to do within the game. Each character really has a totally different feel to them as well, so not only do you have the different playstyles of the different characters, you have the different playstyle of the different weapons, you'll be able to level up your character, complete different side quests, and learn more about the compelling story of the game. It's not your traditional Legend of Zelda style, but if you like that one versus hundreds hack and slash style gameplay, I definitely recommend checking out Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Alright, the final game on today's list is Star Ocean First Departure R. And so this is actually a remake of a classic RPG from the Super Nintendo. And so it follows more of that classic linear style RPG gameplay and follows the story of the first Star Ocean game in the series. And so in this game, you play as a bunch of heroes that go on a quest to save their world from a mysterious illness that's turning everyone to stone. And so the gameplay features more of a sci-fi feel mixed with fantasy, and you'll go on a crazy wild adventure that features time travel and more. The gameplay features some action RPG elements where as you get into random battles, you'll go into more of a 3D grid, and at that point it becomes more of an action RPG. It felt similar to games like Tales of Symphonia and other games in the Tales series, and the Grandia series as well. So if you like classic, story-driven RPGs, and want to experience the first Star Ocean game from the series, I would definitely recommend it. But that wraps up our list of these 10 new Nintendo eShop sale games worth buying. But let us know in the comments below, have you played any of these games before? Are you going to pick some up now that you know that they're on sale? Are there others in the sale right now that I missed? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like videos like this on video games, board games, and everything nerdy, check out one of our other videos here. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.